Dr. Shastri, I want to begin today's episode with a question that almost every student has asked at least once. Have you ever walked out of an examination hall and suddenly remembered the answer? The answer that refused to come during the exam. The answer that appeared 5 minutes after the bell rang. Why does that happen? Why can a student know something and still fail to use it when it matters the most?
That question may be one of the most important questions in education, because when it happens repeatedly, students start drawing dangerous conclusions. They begin saying, I am weak, I am not intelligent, maths is not for me. But what if those conclusions are wrong? What if the problem is not intelligence? What if the problem is not effort? What if the problem is that the brain is overloaded? Today, I want to talk about one of the most important and least understood abilities of the human brain: working memory. The hidden engine behind learning, the hidden engine behind concentration, and perhaps the hidden engine behind mathematical success.
Can you explain working memory in a simple way?
Imagine a school bag. Every morning, a student carries books. If the bag contains only what is necessary, the student walks comfortably. But imagine placing 25 kg into the same bag. What happens? Walking becomes difficult, not because the student became weak, the load became excessive. Working memory is exactly like that. It is the brain's temporary carrying capacity, the place where information is held and processed. And just like a school bag, it has limits. When the load exceeds those limits, mistakes begin appearing.
Why working memory is so important in mathematics?
Because mathematics is one of the few subjects where the brain must perform several jobs simultaneously, like cooking. Imagine solving a class 10 algebra problem. You must remember the formula, track the signs plus or minus, follow the sequence, avoid mistakes, and plan the next step, and also cross-check the answer, all at the same time. The brain is not simply recalling information, it is actively managing information, and that management happens inside working memory. This is why students often say, Sir, I understand when you teach, but later they struggle while solving independently. The classroom explanation uses the teacher's working memory, and independent problem solving at home uses the student's working memory, and that is completely different challenge.
One thing confuses many parents. Why do intelligent students make silly mistakes?
Why? Because intelligence and working memory are not exactly the same thing. Imagine a brilliant cricketer, but you imagine asking that cricketer to bat while carrying a heavy backpack. The skill still exists, but performance suffers. Similarly, students can possess excellent intelligence yet make mistakes because their working memory is overloaded. For example, a student remembers the formula, understands the chapter, knows the method but forgets a negative sign, misses a carryover, writes 7 instead of 17. These are often not knowledge errors. They are working memory errors. The brain becomes busy managing information and small details slip away.
So, where does anxiety enter this picture?
Anxiety. This is where things become really fascinating. Imagine your mobile phone. Many applications are running in the background. What happens? The phone becomes slower, the battery drains faster, performance of the phone drops. Anxiety works in a similar way. When a student enters an examination hall thinking, what if I fail? What if I forget? What if my parents are disappointed? What if I cannot get science? Those thoughts occupy mental space, and working memory now has less room available for mathematics. Research consistently shows that mathematics anxiety interferes with cognitive processing and working memory. Math anxiety and reduced working memory are closely linked to poorer mathematical performance. The mathematics has not become harder. The mental workspace has become smaller.
Are today's students facing any additional challenges as well?
Absolutely. Think about the average class 9 or class 11 student today. School, homework, coaching, lot of projects, social media, notifications, peer comparison, career discussions, board exams, competitive exams. The brain rarely gets a chance to rest. Imagine opening 50 browser tabs on a computer. Eventually, performance of the computer slows. The same thing happens mentally. The modern student's brain is constantly multitasking, and every unnecessary demand consumes working memory.
Dr. Shastri, what is the number one takeaway for the parents?
Parents, please remember this. When your child forgets something, do not immediately conclude that the child is careless. When your child makes a silly mistake, don't immediately conclude that the child lacks intelligence. Instead of that, you ask, what load is this child carrying? Academic load? Emotional load? Social pressure? Fear of failure? Comparison? Because sometimes the problem is not the child's ability. The problem is the weight being placed on that ability.
And what should a student remember from today's episode?
I want every student listening to hear this carefully. Your mistakes don't define your intelligence. Your marks don't define your potential. And forgetting during an exam does not automatically mean you are weak in mathematics. Sometimes your working memory is simply overloaded. And the good news is that overload can be managed. There is a technique, there is a method. That is why understanding your brain is so important. Because once you understand how your brain works, you stop fighting with yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, learning becomes easier.
That's really nice. So, Dr. Shastri, what are we exploring in next episode?
In the next episode, we move from understanding the problem to building the solution. Can breathing actually influence attention? Can specific pranayama practices influence mental performance? Why does breathing change when anxiety appears? And can changing breathing patterns help students enter a better learning state? Because if breath truly influences the brain, then every student may be carrying a powerful tool they have been using every day without understanding its potential. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next episode. From understanding the brain to training the brain using the breath.